Hello everybody and welcome to another one of our leadership training videos. In these leadership training videos, I take you through just a few ideas and a few thoughts to help you to understand what the key elements are of leadership. So how you can build your leadership skills, your leadership abilities. How do you become a more effective leader? How do you become more insightful as to what it needs for you to be able to grow from wherever you are today to where you want to be in the future? Maybe you're not a leader yet. Maybe you're not on that path or that journey, and that's okay. So what is it that you may be looking for and pick out from some of these thoughts and ideas that I share with you to start to prepare yourself for leadership whenever that happens to be, if that is something that you want. Because not everybody wants to be a leader, but if you are, you're in the right place. Now, my name is Chris Igwe. I have over 35 years experience leading, training and developing teams across primarily 5 major European markets where I've lived and worked, but also Europe, Middle East and Africa where I've had teams and I've traveled to and from in my 35-year career. So feel free to listen to this, share, like and comment and subscribe to the channel so you know when other videos are becoming available. The topic we're going to talk about today is kind of a simple one, I guess, but it's a fundamental question. So the question I ask you is, in your leadership journey or in being a leader or looking at your leaders today, which is more important? Is it about being right or doing right? Being right or doing right? And what do I mean by that? Well, in a sense, as human beings, we're born by nature to want to be right. Whichever way you look at it, we feel that we have an idea, a subject, a position, and we want to be right. An easy example is in politics. Politics, everybody from different parties, different sides, they give their point of view, and as far as they're concerned, it is the absolute truth. It is their position. It is what they want. So, but as a leader, the key question is it more important to be right, or is it more important to do right? And I think you'll get the picture fairly quickly as we go through this. So to be able to do that, let's kind of break these into 2 sections. So the first is being right. So when you're being right, which is a particular state in which you're in, these are some of the things. Again, in all these videos, I can't share all the different aspects. I just bring out what I think are the main ones that you need to think about. There are others and you can develop your own as well. Being right kind of is a sort of selfish position that you take. You want to be right because maybe you have an authoritarian approach to leadership. So you are kind of, my position, my view is absolutely the right one and nobody else has the right to contradict it. So there's a kind of selfish positioning. It's about you being right. It's egotistical as well. So it's about your own ego. It's about the importance of being right for you. That is part of the process. But one of the key things about being right and wanting to be right all the time, it can be very destructive. Destructive for you as a person, because let's face it, how many of us, as we've been managed or led over the time of our career, or even now, want to be put down all the time, where somebody says, I'm right as the leader and you're wrong. And maybe you've done the best piece of work, it's the greatest strategic proposal that you've put together, maybe it's the best idea and so on, but it's not right. And your boss is right or the leader is right. It can be very destructive both for you and for them in terms of how they perceive it and that whole egotistical, selfish view that they have. But contrast this with doing right, because you as the leader always want to do right, or should want to do right within the team, within your company, within your department. And the characteristics in some way, which are kind of balancing out the earlier ones, is by doing right, you express something from a selfless position. So it's not about you. You take yourself out of the space. It's about that decision or that choice being the right one for that person or that situation. There's a humbleness or a humility. So being right, yes, we all want to be right, but doing right is the approach that you have to take. And that gives you humility to know that maybe you're not always right. Maybe you haven't always got the right decisions and choices. Somebody else has. And then of course, the flip side of destructive is it's constructive. So by doing something right, you are helping people to understand, well, it's not about him or her, it's about the situation. Because you're going to want to show your leadership traits, which come through these points. Because by doing right, as opposed to being right, you express several of these qualities and abilities, and you gain the respect from it. So the traits that you'd be looking for is fairness. And I want to take an example of somebody who you are reprimanding, let's put it that way, for something they haven't done or didn't do as well. I think that's a fairly straightforward example. You gave somebody a task, they didn't do it as well, or they came up short, or they missed the deadline. Do you think that being right is what's important? Being right, I told you to do it in this way or by this time and you didn't, and you kind of strip them in front of others, or even in a private situation, that person is going to feel hurt by the approach that you've taken. However, the doing right piece is where you say to them, look, you didn't really do this the way I wanted. This is how I asked you to do it. Something went wrong. Let's kind of figure out what it is, but I don't want you to do it again. So there's kind of a firmness, but a fairness. Maybe they can explain themselves in that situation. It's obviously, broader than that, but it's the way in which you approach it. So it's not that you're right and they got it wrong. It's about doing right means this is substandard performance, whatever it is that you ask them to do, and you want them to know that in being fair to them is to say, this wasn't to the standards that I expected. I expect better from you and more from you next time. So there's kind of fairness about how you approach it. And you can think of various other examples in the way in which you run your team. By being right, you generally don't listen. Whereas by doing right, you will listen to other people or to the other party who perhaps you've been reprimanding. You're honest and you're open in that relationship and that dealing. But also the decisions that you make and the choices you make, they're about doing the right thing for the team, the company, the department. So it's less about emotions, which is here. It's not about biased choices, it's about unbiased choices. You make the right decisions for that situation or the right choices. You are consistent as well. So if you are doing something right, your approach is always going to be the same. Whereas when you're being right or wanting to be right, for example, some people can raise their voice, they can get very emotional about it. So there's kind of a volatility that you don't really want to have in there. And then perhaps the final and most important one in terms of doing right is that there is a clear communication. So when in this fairness conversation you set the standard, you want everybody to know this is the way in which I expect you to behave and to perform. And your approach to the rest of your team is consistent. So you're consistently tough, challenging, your expectations are high, and if they get it right, you say thank you. If they don't get it right, you say that's not good enough, let's do it better, let's improve. So being right versus doing right, two very different things. One is more about you, the being part, and the other is about doing, which is more external, but also it's very clear in the message that it sends. So I'd strongly recommend that in terms of your leadership, you should be looking to do right and not be right. Yes, we all want to be right, but it's about doing right and making sure that everybody is held accountable to the same standards, and your approach makes sure that they understand that as well. So I hope this has helped. If it has, please feel free to like, share or comment, and of course subscribe to the channel so you know when other videos are becoming available. And until the next time, thank you.